Hey, I'm Jason Reese, and I am the researcher for this documentary.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm the videographer in this documentary.
I'm Chelsea, and I'm the interviewer.
Dress codes have changed by a lot, but back in the 1950s, you were not allowed to wear overalls, and shorts had to extend below the knees. You were not allowed to wear jeans. School staff did not permit clothes that sent a negative message because it would disrupt school activity. Parents back then were expected to see that their children were dressed with an emphasis of modesty.
Okay, so my statement is many schools are racist, and I'm here to describe how and why that is. So many schools are racist because in a video that I watched called 10 Most Bizarre Dress Codes, there was an incident where these twin sisters wore box braids, and these twin sisters were black, and they did nothing but wear their hair in braids, which is pretty normal for most black girls, though. Apparently, this school thought that this was against the dress code, so they banned the sisters from school activities, and even faced possible suspension, which I think is really dumb. But in this school, dyeing your hair is also against the dress code, and white kids do it all the time, and there seem to be no problems. So what I'm trying to say is that schools should be more open to diversity and let students decide if their hair or whatever they're wearing is against the rules or their dress code. That's it.
Oftentimes, school enforces policies that are sexist towards females. Many policies include rules that only apply to females. In the majority of dress codes, the rules for the way boys dress are noticeably minimal. Many staff from our school claim this is because girls have more of a societal inclination to dress revealing. Other schools with stricter dress codes claim the rules are there to ensure the students remain safe from sexual harassment.
I'm the principal at Cactus Shadows.
All right, so what is the school's policy regarding the dress code?
Well, we sit down at the beginning of the year and we always just analyze what the dress code is and make any changes if needed. So we have posters up in all the classrooms, or at least they should be up in all the classrooms, which outline the guidelines of the dress code.
All right. And how is Cactus Shadows policy different from other schools? Which do you think is more effective?
Well, I think our policy is actually pretty lenient. When if you take a look at what other schools have done, I did a work at Sunrise Mountain High School, and they didn't allow any tank tops or what they called racerbacks and things like that. So, and I think if you take a look at what we've done over the last couple of years, we've actually, changed the dress code to make it more, usable for the students and the styles and trends and things like that.
Yeah. Do you think dress codes target certain races or genders?
Well, I don't think it necessarily targets, but I do know that generally girls are going to be impacted more just because of the styles of clothes they wear. But I know that one of the schools that I went to, that I worked back in Ohio, boys were often caught with dress code because at that time sagging pants were very much popular. So it just really kind of depends on what the kids want to wear and how that actually goes with the dress code.
Yeah. Do you think having this dress code is beneficial, and how?
Well, one of the things I always look at with dress code is that for the rest of your life you're going to have some sort of dress code, some sort of code that you're going to have to follow. Generally I have a more stringent dress code than most people, so I think it's beneficial because it prepares you for the real world. And there should be a certain account of I want to look nice and I want to dress a certain way for where I'm going and what I'm doing. So.
Yeah. Would you change anything about the dress code in life?
To be honest with you, I haven't really taken a look, that heavily at the dress code. Like I said, I think ours is pretty lenient compared to others, so I don't see any, radical changes of what we would need to change. But
Say your name and your line of business.
John John Thompson, Dean of Students, Cactus Shadows High School.
All right, what is the school's policy regarding dress code?
School's policy regarding dress code is actually pretty extensive. So the main policy is that there shouldn't be any midriff showing, there shouldn't be anything over the shoulders, there should not be any profanity on your t-shirts, there should not be any profanity on your hats. Pretty much anything that's offensive to another individual. It could be politically based, it could be sexually based, okay? So, you know, it's an extensive list, but we try to enforce it the best that we can.
How is Cactus Shadows policy different from other schools? Which do you think is more effective?
It's actually not much different at all. This is the 4th school that I've worked at, and when it comes to dress code, pretty much all of them are the same. I mean, you know, they really don't want any females wearing anything that's gonna, you know, kind of have that sexual, content to it. They don't want any of the men wearing anything that has to do with that, as well as anything that's inappropriate on the shirts or hats and things of that nature. So it's pretty similar to, you know, across the board with all of them. I haven't really seen much of a difference.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Okay.
Do you think the dress code policy targets certain races or genders?
I think it could, yes, because if you're looking at a female versus a male, typically males are not going to wear a shirt where you're going to be able to see, you know, their stomach, where, you know, females will do that. So that's going to be the big difference there. Typically males aren't wearing shorts that are really high, whereas, you know, the females are wearing that as well. So that definitely differs from what the males will wear. And the males are typically getting dress coded for, you know, alcohol on their t-shirts or inappropriate sayings and phrases on their t-shirts, but not so much about showing skin, I guess you could say.
Do you think having this dress code is beneficial? How?
Yeah, I do think it's beneficial. I think that there has to be some sort of conduct to follow, some sort of protocol to follow to make sure that, you know, students aren't honestly putting themselves in harm's range. I mean, there could be, you know, situations where if a student is wearing something that's politically, how can I put it? Just something that's political, it could offend somebody else, which can incite violence. Okay, there can be situations where if a female is wearing something that is sexually attractive to a male, that can also incite the male to do something that they shouldn't be doing. So I think it's very important to have that protocol and just make sure that everybody's here for learning purposes and not so much a fashion show.
Would you change anything about the dress code?
As of right now, no.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
What is the Cactus Shadows dress code policy? Would you change anything about it? What and why?
I would like to see everybody in uniform so I wouldn't have to dress code all the time.
No, I'm fine with it.
Do you think the dress code is effective in keeping students safe? How?
Well, I don't know about safe, whatever, but, you know, some of these outfits, I think are very inappropriate for a school setting.
For a young girl to be wearing them also.
Do you think the dress code policy at Cactus Shadows targets students of a certain gender or race?
No. The dress code is for everyone.
It's for everyone, but it's mostly the females.
Do most students follow the dress code? Do males or females follow it more?
Absolutely not. I would say males follow it more than girls.
I agree.
Do you think our dress code here is more effective than those of other schools? And why?
I really don't know how other schools do their dress code, so I cannot answer that question.
Well, in other schools that you can't have the spaghetti straps, but over here you can, so that's just, you know, but it's basically the same.
Alright, thank you guys.
You're
That's it.
welcome.
Wow, I think it's a pretty long policy. I think there are lots of different items on the dress code policy. I think first and foremost that the thought is so that people are respectful and classy and respect themselves. So that would just mean wearing like appropriate clothing for being in a public place.
How is Cactus Shadows policy different from other schools? Which do you think is more effective?
I'm not sure about other schools. I would think other schools, the policy would be about the same. It should be, I think. I think we do pretty well with the dress code and making sure that teachers and students are dressed appropriately for this place, but I'm not sure. I've worked at a few other schools and the dress code seems to be similar.
Do you think dress codes at our school target certain races or genders?
No, but I think there's a standard for both guys and girls. What you'd expect of a guy to wear wouldn't be the same for a girl, obviously, but it still brings it back to being classy, keeping it classy.
Do you think having the school code is beneficial? How?
Yes, because there has to be some kind of common, idea for what people wear, or else we would, there's so many different styles out there, and some are appropriate for weekends, and some are appropriate on vacation, and some are appropriate at school. And so I think it needs to be fair for everybody, and or else things could get a little out of hand, I think.
Would you change anything about the dress code, and why?
No, I think it's pretty good. I don't really have a problem with it. I'm sure that, some students might have problems with the fact that maybe the dress code isn't as progressive and cool as students would want it to be, but I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What's the school's policy regarding dress code?
Oh, well, the school's dress code has to do with, I would say, a summary of it would be covering your chest and covering your butt and making sure that you don't have anything offensive on your clothing.
How is Cactus Shadows policy different from other schools, and which do you think is more effective?
The schools that I've taught at before actually had a little bit more of a stringent policy on dress code, and sometimes that would help students to focus less on the social aspect of the environment and a little bit more on the academic aspect. And I could see sometimes that it would help them to learn how to interact professionally, dress professionally in other environments. So that would be helpful.
Do you think the dress code targets certain races or genders?
Definitely, I would say that there are more restrictions for females than for males.
Do you think having this dress code is beneficial, and how?
I think having a dress code teaches you that there are dress codes for other professional environments. So for example, I actually have a dress code for coming to work as well. I have never not had a dress code. Even when in my first job I had to wear a uniform and it had to be a certain way, and that was something that was helpful for me to learn how to interact, I would say, professionally in environments that I had to work in.
And would you change anything about the dress code, and why? Or why not?
I think sometimes we look at the what but don't look at the why enough. And so I would say that I would probably try to get a student team to come together and look at the dress code and evaluate the purpose behind it, and then maybe have some input on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Interview.